Hello everyone, my name is Hervé Cudennec and I'm a traditional Breton singer from the Bay of Morlaix in Brittany. Today I have a very special experiment for you. I ask an artificial intelligence to analyze my teaching methods and create a podcast to explain our unique Diskan singing style to an English-speaking audience. The synthesis is quite impressive, but I must warn you though. The AI Breton accent sounds a bit like a tourist lost in the middle of Brittany, but the core explanation is very accurate. So, if you're a fan of folk music and world traditions, this is for you. Enjoy the listen.
Welcome back. Today we are traveling way out to the western edge of Europe to a place called Brittany.
Or Brise in the local language.
Right, Brise. And we are not talking about crepes or cider today, as good as they are. We are talking about a vocal technique that creates a literal, well, a human trance.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's raw, it's incredibly powerful, and honestly, it's unlike anything you've likely heard in, say, American folk music. It's called Diskan.
Diskan. Okay, say that again for me.
Diskan.
That sounds intense. What does it actually mean?
It literally translates from the Breton language as singing and counter-singing, but, and this is the important part, don't think of it as a choir.
Okay.
Think of it as a motor.
A motor.
Exactly. Our guide for this journey is a man named Hervé Cudennec. And he's not some academic in a library. He is a passionate singer who has spent years, decades in these dance circles.
So he's a practitioner.
Absolutely. And he insists on one thing. This singing has a single solitary purpose.
Which is?
To make people dance.
So it's purely functional music.
100%. It happens at these night gatherings called fest-noz. That just means night festival.
And what does that look like?
Well, you have to picture this. It's not a concert. It's hundreds of people forming a tight circle. They don't just hold hands, they grip their neighbors arm in arm, forming this solid human chain that can rotate for hours.
Yeah.
And the singers are the engine. They're the motor driving that chain.
Okay, so how does it work technically? I'm thinking of something like call and response, in blues or gospel music. Is it like that?
It's similar, but with a crucial Breton twist. In a typical call and response, the leader sings, then pauses, right, and the crowd answers.
Right, there's a gap.
There is a gap, a tiny gap of silence. In Diskan, silence is the enemy. It's the one thing you have to avoid.
No silence at all.
None.
They use a technique called tuilage.
Tuilage.
It means tiling, like on a roof.
Yeah.
The second singer, the scanner, starts singing the end of the first singer's phrase before the first singer has even finished. So they overlap. They're singing on top of each other.
Exactly. They overlap like roof tiles.
Mm-hmm.
And this creates a continuous stream of sound, an unbroken rhythmic rope that just pulls the dancers forward.
I see.
If the sound stops, the energy, what they call the lanyas, it just collapses and the dancers lose the groove.
Wow. So the chemistry between the singers must be, almost telepathic.
Absolutely. They stand shoulder to shoulder, forming what they call a rhythmic block. It's often practiced by pairs of brothers or sisters, like the legendary Sirs Gavotte, the Gavotte sisters, or the Frères Morvan.
The Morvan brothers.
Yeah, the saying is, 2 heads, 1 breath.
I love that image. Now, what about the music itself, the sound of it? Does it sound like, Western pop music with standard scales?
Not really, no. It uses what are called microtones or quarter tones.
Okay, what does that mean for someone listening?
It means to an untrained American ear, it might sound a little off-key at first, like the singers are landing between the notes of a piano, but Hervé explains this is completely intentional.
Intentional? Why?
It creates a vibration, a kind of acoustic tension that excites the ear and, well, it boosts the trance.
It's almost psychedelic then.
In a way, yes. It's very earthy and hypnotic, and there are different styles depending on the terroir, the region.
Right.
You have the Gavotte, which is sort of the queen of dances, very flowy, or the Plinn, which is really grounded, almost like stomping the earth.
So if you, our listener, wanted to try this, do you need to be a professional singer?
Not at all. And that's the beauty of it. It's a popular oral tradition. You just need energy, a good partner, and you absolutely need to be able to dance while you sing.
So you're part of the chain.
You are. As Hervé says, if the people are dancing, you've won.
If they dance, you win. I like that. Thanks for taking us to Kreitz today.
Canavo.
Okay, hold on. We can't just stop at Canavo. We need to really unpack the mechanics of this because I am still stuck on this image of the roof tiles. You called it tuilage, right?
Right. Tuilage. Tiling.
It sounds like a nightmare. If I'm singing with you and I have to start singing before you finish, how do we not just trip all over each other? It feels like interrupting someone mid-sentence, but, musically.
It's all about distinct roles and intense observation. You have the caner, that's the leader, and the Diskan, the countersinger. So let's say you're the caner. You launch the phrase, you're setting the melody, the rhythm, the whole feeling.
Okay, so I'm driving the bus.
You're driving. I'm the Diskan, so I'm sitting shotgun, but I'm watching your lips like a hawk. I'm feeling your body rhythm. I don't wait for you to stop. When you get to the last few syllables, or sometimes even the whole second half of the phrase, I jump in.
So for a split second, maybe a few seconds, we're singing the exact same words at the exact same pitch at the same time.
Exactly. And that overlap is the magic sauce. It creates this little volume boost, a sort of rinforzando, which is just a fancy music term for reinforcement. It happens right at the end of every single phrase.
And he gives the dancers a little sonic kick.
That's it. In Conrad Diskan, you overlap the voices to make the rhythm silence-proof. If silence gets in, the trance breaks. The whole thing falls apart.
That is fascinating. You're basically turning two human beings into a living loop pedal.
That's a great way to put it. But unlike a loop pedal, it's not, mechanical. There's a musician named Eric Marchand, a giant in this scene, who describes this rhythm as being like chewing gum.
Chewing gum? That doesn't sound very complimentary.
No, he means it in the best way possible. It's elastic. It stretches. It isn't a rigid metronome click. The singers are constantly watching the dancers' feet.
So they're reacting to the crowd.
Constantly. If the dancers are heavy and tired, the singers might push the beat a little to wake them up. If the dancers are flying, the singers might stretch the beat out to let them hang in the air for a second.
So the music breathes with the crowd.
Exactly. And that implies an insane amount of nonverbal communication between the two singers. You can't just look at a sheet of music to know when to stretch the chewing gum.
Right. Sheet music is actually useless here.
Totally useless. Which brings us back to that off-key sound you mentioned. That idea that it sounds like it's between the keys of a piano.
Yeah. To our modern ears, which are so accustomed to, tempered scales.
Right, tempered scales. Like a piano or a guitar where every note is perfectly spaced and mathematically correct. To that ear, Conrad Diskan can sound a little false.
False is a harsh word.
It is, but that's how a classically trained musician might hear it at first. But in the rural tradition of central Brittany, those notes are exactly where they're supposed to be. They are using microtones, specifically quarter tones.
But why? Is it just because they didn't have pianos to tune against back in the 1800s?
No, it's not a mistake. It's physics. Hervé explains this using the biniou.
The biniou.
Yeah.
That's the Breton bagpipe, right? The really high-pitched one?
Yes, the little one that creates this massive wall of sound. When a bagpiper tunes their instrument, they deliberately tune the chanter, that's the pipe that plays the melody, slightly higher, about a quarter tone higher than the drone note.
Okay, so you have two notes that are almost the same, but not quite.
Exactly. And when you have two sound waves that are just slightly different frequencies, they physically rub against each other in the air.
It creates a wobble, a vibration.
A wobble, a beat, a vibration. That dissonance creates acoustic tension. It physically excites the eardrum. It makes the sound feel piercing and urgent. So when the singers use these quarter tones, they're not singing flat or sharp by mistake.
They're creating that rub on purpose.
To drive the physical urge to move. It literally activates the nervous system.
So autotune would absolutely hate this music.
Oh, autotune would try to fix it immediately. And in the process, it would just kill the soul of the music. It would flatten that tension that makes the whole trance possible.
It's a great example of how imperfection, at least by our digital standards, is actually a sophisticated feature.
That's it, exactly.
I love that. So let's talk about the people who mastered this imperfection. In the intro, you mentioned two groups, the Frères Morvan and the Sœurs Cudennec, brothers and sisters.
Yes, family is huge here. And it makes sense, right? When you grow up in the same house, speak the same dialect, maybe even share the same genetic lung capacity, that tuilage chemistry is just natural. You know when your brother is going to run out of breath.
So let's start with the Frères Morvan, the Morvan brothers.
These guys were and still are absolute legends in Brittany. Imagine a boy band, but there are four bachelor brothers, Yves, Francois, Henri, and Yvonne, living together on a farm in this tiny place called Saint-Nicodème.
Wait, they were actual farmers,
Yeah.
like for your day job.
Real farmers. They worked the land every single day. They'd wear costumes. They'd get on stage in their checkered work shirts, flat caps, and suspenders. They looked like they just stepped off a tractor, because often they had.
They were popular.
They were rock stars. They just had this relentless, driving, rhythmic power. They performed over 3,000 times.
3,000. That is a grueling schedule for anyone, let alone full-time farmers.
And they became icons. They played at the Vieille Charrue Festival, which is the biggest music festival in France. And there's this amazing fact. In 2002, they were on the same bill as Iggy Pop.
No way. The Morvan brothers, the farmers in flat caps, and Iggy Pop, the godfather of punk.
Yes. And the crazy thing is, it makes total sense. They share that same raw, unpolished, high-octane energy. It's completely unfiltered. But for the Morvans, it wasn't about being artists. It was about maintenance.
Maintenance? What do you mean?
They saw themselves as maintaining a tradition. They weren't trying to innovate or write new hits. They were trying to sing exactly as their mother, Augustine, had taught them. They were transmitting an oral heritage, keeping the line unbroken.
That is beautiful. And on the flip side of that, you had the sisters.
The Sœurs Cudennec, Marivonne, Eugénie, and Anastasie, a trio, sometimes a quartet. They were absolutely pivotal in the 1970s. You have to remember, before the 70s, this music was seen by a lot of modern French people as just peasant noise.
Ah, so it was dying out.
It was, and the Cudennec sisters brought it to Paris. They performed at Bobino, which is a famous music hall there.
So they legitimized it on a national stage.
They proved it had real artistic merit. They inspired the big folk revivalist, Alan Stovall. When people heard the Cudennec sisters, they didn't just hear farm music. They heard a complex, beautiful, polyphonic texture that was incredibly sophisticated. They really paved the way for everyone else.
It's amazing how this music is so tied to specific people and specific places. You mentioned terroir earlier. I know that from the wine world, where it means the soil and the climate affect the grape. What does it mean for Breton singing?
It means that every micro-region, sometimes just a cluster of villages, has its own unique groove. Canha Diskan is specific to Cretes-Brice, that's central Brittany. But inside that area, you have different little pays or countries.
Give us a tour. What are the main styles we'd find?
Well, the undisputed queen of the dances is the Gavotte.
The Gavotte.
It's a mountain dance. It's flowy, it bounces. A Gavotte isn't just one song either. It's a whole suite. It has a specific structure. 3 parts. You start with the ton, simple part 1. Then you have the ball, which is a resting section, usually a walking step.
A chance to catch your breath.
Exactly. And then you hit the ton double part 2, which is where the energy really, really peaks.
And I read something funny about that ball section. What happens if the singers run out of lyrics?
Yes. Since the goal is to never stop the sound, if you forget a verse, or if you just need to fill time while you think of the next one, you use tra-la-la-la-la-no. It's rhythmic nonsense syllables. It's basically the scat singing of Brittany. But even the nonsense has to be in the right rhythm. You can't just mumble. It has to drive the feet.
I can just imagine that. So Gavotte is flowy. What's the opposite of that?
That would be the Plinn.
Plinn.
Plinn is ground-level dancing. It's totally flat-footed. You don't bounce up. You stomp down. It is earthy, binary, and very square. It's a trance dance in the purest sense. The idea is you are hammering the floor, packing the earth.
And then you said there's an athletic one.
The Fisel. That is for the virtuosos. It's incredibly fast, lots of high kicks. You'll see people leaving a Fisel set completely drenched in sweat.
Now, I have to ask, is all Breton singing for dancing? Because we've been talking about motors and sweat and trances this whole time. Is there a slower, more contemplative side to it?
There is, and it's arguably even more powerful. It's the flip side of the coin. It's called the Gwerz.
Gwerz, that sounds...
Heavier.
It is. Gwerz means complaint or ballad. This is strictly for listening. You do not dance to a Gwerz. These are long, dramatic stories, and they're usually tragic. They tell of shipwrecks, murders, souls in purgatory, historical battles.
So if Diskan is the Saturday night party, then Gwerz is the Sunday morning confession.
That's a brilliant analogy. Diskan is all about collective joy. Gwerz is about solitary sorrow. Usually, a Gwerz is sung solo with a very free rhythm. There's no beat to follow. The singer stretches the notes to wring out every last drop of emotion.
Can you give us an example of a story? One of the most famous is a song called Skolven. It's a harrowing tale about a man, Yannick Skolven, who has committed just terrible crimes, burning churches, killing his family, and he comes back as a ghost, a wandering soul, seeking redemption from his mother.
That is dark.
It's incredibly dark. But the beauty of the Gwerz is that by singing about this darkness, the community processes it. It's cathartic, but structurally, it's the total opposite of Diskan. No tuilage, no overlap, just one voice telling a story against the silence.
It's amazing. It seems like this culture has a tool for every human emotion.
Yeah.
Ekischen forest kaniskan En kischen forest kaniskan.
But here's the thing that puzzles me. This is peasant music. It's farm music. In most of Europe, that stuff just disappeared when the tractors arrived and the TV was turned on. How did this survive?
It almost didn't. In the 1940s and 50s, the agricultural society just collapsed. Young people moved to the cities. The context for the music, which was often the threshing parties where neighbors would help harvest wheat and then dance on the dirt floor to pack it down, that all just disappeared.
So no harvest, no dance.
Exactly. The chain was broken. But then, in the 1950s, a man named Louis Ropars stepped in. He's often called the father of the modern festnaz.
And what did he do?
He reinvented the context. He realized that if they didn't have the work parties, they just needed a new reason to gather. So he moves the dance from the farm courtyard to the village hall, and he made a crucial change. He put the singers on a stage and gave them microphones.
That's a big shift. I mean, putting a peasant singer on a stage changes the dynamic, doesn't it? Suddenly they're performers.
It does. It separates the singer from the dancer in a way, but it saved the music. Ropars encouraged the Festnaz, the night festival, as a social event open to everyone, not just the farm workers.
And it worked.
It worked incredibly well. Today, the Festnaz is recognized by UNESCO as intangible cultural heritage. But more importantly, it's not a museum piece. If you go to Brittany today, to a Festnaz, you won't just see old people preserving the past. You see thousands of teenagers and 20-somethings holding hands in that circle.
That is so rare. Usually, folk music is something your grandparents do while you listen to pop.
Not here. There are artists like Chrisman who are mixing Diskan with beatboxing and hip-hop. He raps in Breton, but he keeps that tuilage rhythm, that core energy of the dance.
That's wild. So the motor's still running, just with new parts.
It's running better than ever. And even though there are bands now with guitars and synths and drums, the Diskan singers are still considered the kings of the Festnaz.
Why is that?
Because they have that direct link. They are the only ones who can truly adjust that chewing gum rhythm to the dancer's feet, instantly. A drum machine can't see that the dancers are exhausted and need a break. A pair of singers can.
It really is an amazing journey. We went from a motor made of human voices overlapping like roof tiles to this incredible trance-like dance floor in Western France that survived the collapse of farming itself.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's really a lesson about community. You cannot do Diskan alone. It is physically impossible. You need a partner to catch your breath, to tile over your silence, and you need a community to dance to it.
It's the ultimate social network.
But it's powered by lungs, not by servers.
I want you, the listener, to just imagine that for a second. Standing in that chain, arm in arm, hearing that raw, overlapping sound, driving you forward for hours.
It creates a kind of connection that I think we are all sorely missing in modern life.
So here's a final thought for you to mull over. In a world of digital perfection, of auto-tune and quantized beats, maybe the most powerful technology we have is still just two voices, slightly off key, refusing to let the silence in.
Beautifully said.
Thanks for diving in with us.
Phenomenal.